We'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody, for joining us for the you're fine, technical difficulties over there. July 15th, 2024, City Council meeting, City of Credit River. We'll begin with approving or amending the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda anybody'd like to make?
No.
Otherwise, I would take a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Abe. I've got a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Sheriff report, Deputy Pearson, good evening. Good.
Green, right? I know I don't come with all sorts of new and exciting information meeting to meeting, so kind of has been our normal, the alarms, medicals. Had a little bit of an uptick in some motor vehicle tamperings in and around the area again. The territory area and off of near Terra Farms, Nevada, and 210th there, had some vehicles gone through again. We've put in extra patrol requests with the east side cars overnight to do more patrols through those areas. They seem to be happening kind of midnight to 3 a.m. and that witching hour when everybody's sound asleep and you don't notice the lights going on outside. Just a quick reminder, make sure you're locking your vehicles. Most of the incidences, they're just going after the pocket change and things like that are in your vehicles. We haven't had any reports yet of real items being stolen, but it's the kind of crime of opportunity that's there. So
is that at the parks mainly, or is it
it's no, so one of the east side cars actually followed a vehicle a couple of weeks ago that got called in about 6 o'clock in the evening, I guess. Registered out of nowhere near here, and just driving through the area. So what they're doing is they'll come down, they'll drive through an area, basically canvass it, kind of get an idea what the layout is, and then they'll come back,
Okay.
5, 6, 7 hours later and hit that area. And they're literally, the videos that we've been catching, they're pulling up, blacking out vehicles, jumping out, running up to vehicles, running back, and off they go. So we're not getting real good video evidence, I guess, of who the individuals are that are going at the vehicles, but vehicles locked, they go up, they grab the handle, if it's locked, they turn and they walk away or run away. So again, it's that kind of crime of opportunity. Just make sure that things are locked up and secured, and obviously then don't leave real valuables in the vehicles on top of that. So sorry here. So we do have our safety day coming up. I had mentioned it before. I'm working on getting the Facebook posting. It's August 8th from 11 to 2 p.m. at the Clear Lake Park. So we've got, and it's coming in attendance, obviously our sheriff's office is going to be there. We've got our drone team, our rec deputy is going to be there, the mounted reserves, our jail's going to bring their portable jail cell again. They can lock you in if you really want.
The kids love that.
Yeah, they think it's fabulous. One of the Tri-City SWAT team members from our office is going to be there. He'll have a bunch of his gear and stuff that kids can try on. And Alina, and this year the DNR is actually going to be there. The officer Fogarty with the area is going to bring his boat out there as well. So I will get the information, get the posting as soon as I have it. I will get it back to you.
Nice.
So we have that. So kind of last other thing is you may see have seen or will continue to see an uptick of either Scott County deputies or other agencies within other jurisdictions. So there's been a fair amount of what we refer to as TZD, so it's towards zero death. And there's been speed, move over, and distracted driving saturations that have been going on. So when that's all through the state, and basically any agency can put in for it. So you might see an Elko squad driving through Credit River or Shakopee or whatever. It's kind of a free for all anywhere in the county. So that's been going on and will continue through the end of August here. So if you've noticed that's what's going on.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
I don't have anything else. Any questions for me?
Appreciate it, John. Council members, any questions or comments for deputy? No. I think you're good. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day.
You too. You as well. Thank you. All right. Just one quick, swing in thank you, Councilmember Stromer, for reminding me, but we do want to note kind of on to the residents that we talked about a little bit at the park meeting last week, but our former finance director, Dominique Hill, passed away here a couple of weeks ago. So we do want everybody to know, we don't know any details on anything else other than that, but yeah, it was, she'd been with us for a long time, really great person and whatnot, and keeping her family in your prayers, if you would, for this time. So if you're interested, once we do know something, hopefully we can find out when services are or anything, we'll let people know, but right now we don't know when that's gonna happen, so. All right, so moving to consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Today on consent agenda, we've got 3.1, approve the city council meeting minutes for July 1st, 2024. 3.2, transfer request. 3.3, the check summary. 3.4, consider the appointment of the 2024 election director, temporary part-time position. 3.5, appoint the election judges for the primary election on August 13th and the general election for November 5th. And then 3.6 will consider the final resolution creating the citizens committee related to the government center and the city vision concepts. Is there anything on the consent agenda that the council member would like to consider separately? Otherwise, I will take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Abe.
I'll second.
Thank you, Leroy. I've got a motion and a second to approve consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move into open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns of the council. The public forum will be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss, but will not take formal action on public forum presentations tonight. Tonight, we have one person signed up for open forum, and that would be Amy Byrne. If you would please step to the podium and turn the microphone on, please. There you go.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay. Good afternoon, council. My name is Amy Byrne. I'm the attorney for South Passage, one of the sewer districts in City of Credit River. I'm here tonight on behalf of the agenda item number 7.5 in regards to the special districts. I would like to object on behalf of South Passage to any unnecessary costs or unknown costs at this time. As we know, there's been a precedent with the South Passage Sewer District incurring some significant costs without prior notice. And so seeing this on the agenda tonight, that there is a unknown cost to the districts, it does raise some concerns for myself and the members of South Passage. The specific wording on the agenda item is the financial impact is unknown at this time, but yet there is a recommendation to the council to move forward with doing research with the districts in regards to territory, because there's some issues going on with territory that may also relate to the South Passage district, the Monterey Heights district. At this time, we're just asking for there to be financial costs incurred that are reasonable and necessary, not just because there is some unknown discussion that's not been revealed on the agenda packet for tonight, There's been no reports as to what this discussion was had, so I'm just coming forward to raise some concerns and just asking that the any financial expenditures as it relates to the districts are reasonable and necessary. And I would further ask that the council set some strict parameters on what financial amounts can be spent on behalf of the districts, just so that there's some clarity as to how much can be spent, and to reassure the members of the districts that there is some limit as to what can be spent to do further research, analysis, whatnot. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. We'll give one other opportunity if anybody else wants to speak in open forum tonight. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. In presentations tonight, we've got a representative from the Scott County Watershed Management Organization that has a presentation for us tonight. If you want to pull that microphone down towards you, then
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, council members. My name is Melissa Bachman-Ermer. I'm with Scott County and the Scott Watershed Management Organization. I'm trying to get in front of every city council and every township to make you all aware that we're starting the update process of our watershed plan. It's a 10-year plan. Is there the map? Okay, you get it. Okay. So all metro counties are required to manage their water resources through a watershed management organization or a watershed district. This map here, I just wanted to show that Scott County has 4 different watershed jurisdictions and watershed organizations. The white area on that map is the Scott WMO area. So our 10-year plan will apply to that area of the county. We're kicking off our public input process next week, July 22nd. It'll run through the end of September. I'm asking all cities and townships if you would mind posting our flyer. The QR code will bring you to a web page that lists all the information on our plan update and all kinds of different opportunities for the public to be able to give input into the plan. As far as cities participating, we'll have a technical advisory committee. I just want to confirm who I should be sending those emails to. I'm assuming Mr. Nelson, to invite him to attend. What's important about that is that the state or the Board of Water and Soil Resources that administer the Clean Water Fund grant program now require cities to have their projects in a watershed plan to be eligible for clean water funds. So it'll be important for all cities to participate and give those projects in our plan. So I'm going to leave this with someone.
Leave it with Eric,
Okay.
if you would, please.
And we have online virtual meetings, in-person meetings, and we'll be at lots of different community events.
Figure it out.
Perfect, thank you. Awesome. All right, then we'll move into general business. General business 7.1, consider creation of a review panel for the city clerk applications and proceed. Administrator Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In your packet, I'll be brief not to restate everything in your packet. However, as the council approved on July 1st to reinitiate the hiring of a city clerk, it's really important to keep your daily business operations moving, to respond to residents, other businesses that require data from the city, and to keep your public records safe at the very least. So off we go to try to find a new city clerk. We've posted that in various spots, and so far we've received about 25, 30 applications. So that's good news. However, those are due on the 19th, and if we're going to try to get somebody on board ASAP, we should review those promptly. And I'm asking if you folks would consider appointing 2 of you to spend some time with myself and Matt going through them, and that ad hoc group could then make a recommendation back to council as soon as we can complete that. Sooner the better, and that's my ask.
Okay, sounds good. I think that having the council, and I'd be happy to participate as well. So if does anybody else wish to be a part of that, or
I wouldn't mind,
okay,
but it'll have to be a little more remote for me.
We'll figure it out.
so okay, so
Well, you 2 want to do it, that's fine.
it's fine with me.
Yeah.
And if that's, yeah.
Yeah.
We could do that. Okay.
Is that a motion, Mayor?
I'll make the motion. So I got a motion by Costick, second by Sonderbach. All in favor of the city clerk committee? Say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Perfect, thank you. Sorry, just scrolling down to the next agenda item. Sorry about that. Next agenda item is consider update into the temporary finance director position. Administrator Johnson, you want to talk through that one?
Sure, I don't know the deep history of what led to the reaching out to Abdo and to fill the position fortunately left by Dominique, as the mayor mentioned earlier. But it's important that the city have a finance director through GASB rules and your financial statements. People want to make sure that we are doing things per the book. Beyond other things related to your budget and payroll and things. So mayor did reach out to Abdo, which is the same company that does your financial audit every year, and they do provide those services. And that document, their proposal is in your packet. Yeah, it's 90 pages or whatever it is, and I can't expect you all to read those
Word for
things.
word, front to back, back to front.
Know them all in great detail. But it's pretty standard document that you might get from a similar accounting firm. You know, it's fine. But before we lurch off down that path, because that would be expensive, no matter really what the solution is, that we'd like some permission from the council to have the mayor and myself meet with Abdo, discuss the proposal, see if we can get some refinements, or explore any other opportunities and come back to you on August 5th with some slate of recommendations, whatever those may be.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Comments, questions?
What's the how long of a term would we have this interim situation?
No, Mayor, Councilmember Margaret, I don't know. I think it's depends on the person we work with here. I think from what I can gather from talking with all of you over the last couple of weeks, it's maybe 6 months. You're also going to be in the throes of an audit after in early spring. So how do those really work together? The most critical timing piece you have now is your identification of your preliminary levy, which is the end of September. So you got a little time. But once you get that done, you should be off and thinking about your permanent solution.
Could we go out to one or two other accounting firms and just see what their rates are to make sure that these rates are, because it looks like it's 11 to 14,000 a month is what they're going to charge us, just to make sure that they're market rates. And then also, I lost my train of thought. 1 second, I'll come back. It's my age. I turned 60 in a couple of weeks. Oh, I forgot. I'll send you an email.
Yeah.
But
The firms will send information. Thank you, Mayor, for taking the time to at least reach out and kind of, because there really wasn't anybody here to reach out. So hopefully I can help that. I think in just going through it, you're gonna get a senior accountant at X amount per hour. Do you need a senior accountant to do those? And so you got to work with them to refine it, and we'll do our best.
Yeah, I think that's just exactly what tasks we ask them to complete. Who in their organization is appropriate to complete those tasks, right? You know, not all of them are going to be senior accountant tasks.
right. And I'm looking at the 11 to 14 grand. And when I did the math, just what I thought Dominique was making with benefits and all that stuff, I calculated like it'd be a $31,000 increase annually. So the 6 months would be roughly 15, but could you confirm like what the incremental difference will be? Just a ballpark.
Sure.
It's not $100,000. I'm sure
Yeah.
but it's more than what we probably pay.
Oh, yeah, you're paying for convenience at that point.
Yeah,
Offset
offset.
convenience, you're paying for the stopgap.
Yep, offset by benefits that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you could, that was,
Sure.
could you just come up with that too?
Can do.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then if we can hire these, when is the budget process? When are we gonna start doing the budget for? If I recall right, August 6th, I think was the first meeting last year when we talked about the budget.
I mean, like I said, I'm willing to help Donna out. If I just get a trial balance, I can put together spreadsheets, not do anything, not make any decisions. But start that process if you need any help.
I appreciate it. I just, in looking at the data in this little box here, it's August, September. Well, I think you folks did schedule some budget workshops. So those are probably gonna start popping up in your calendar. The biggest target you'll have to work with, and I'd sure appreciate any help from anyone. If we are working with a finance director, interim type person, is that preliminary levy. And what does that really look like? Because you can always come down, and that's usually you always do. So by September 30th, we have to tell our friends, the county, it's X.
Yep.
So.
You and I talked about that in the beginning too. Yeah, grab that one, because I was thinking we should shut that one off anyways, so. All right, so,
One
Yeah.
thing to note, Bill, on that same 11.5, they do say estimated investment is 25 to 35. So they're not calculating 6 months out there. I'm assuming it's time and material. And they're not assuming a full 6 months.
yeah. I think there's.
This excludes the work for the
S.
SSD. That's just the SSD project, which is the septic, the septic districts, right? Or what does SSD stand?
It is for a service district, yeah.
Right, so the 11 to 14 is for the audit work and the accounting work and all that. And then if we wanted them to do investigation,
stuff.
further stuff, that's the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep,
Do we, so I'm all in agreement for trying to find, get some other quotes, but I think time is of the essence, so I
right.
think we need to. Make sure if we're coming back with some other quotes that are similar, I think we need to start moving forward with it pretty quickly.
Yeah, so you think about between now and August 5th, we have roughly 3 weeks. If it's a longer gap between the next meeting, so we should be able to, I think, cover some other, get some competitive. At least some ideas of where the competitors are, right? So we can see if this is reasonable or not. And, you know, the one piece to remember of Abdo is they've done this, some of this for us before. So it should be easy for them to jump in and help with us. So it might be worthwhile paying a little bit more. It's gotta be in the market. But it might be worthwhile if it's a little bit higher to bring them in, because they can stand up
Right.
quickly.
I've talked to residents recently that say we don't do enough, like looking at other firms. So I just want to make sure we just
Mhm.
cover our bases. It's just a phone call to another firm or
Mhm.
two and just say, what's your rates for partner, senior partner,
Mhm.
and so on. Just compare the rates.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else on that one?
Nope.
If not, we'll do a little homework and have something here with the goal of the next council meeting that we can have some recommendation to try and move forward with. All right, item 7.3, consider proposal to change the compensation pay schedule structure. Bill, I think you submitted this one, right?
I did. So, you want me to,
If you want to introduce it for us,
Yeah.
and I think there's a recommendation in the.
so
packet.
back in early spring or late winter, we were talking about, our compensation policy and possibly changing the pay structure, the pay scale. And whether we wanted to, implement a, merit-based, merit performance plan. And that kind of like got put on the back burner. We haven't really talked about it since then. And it would be my recommendation to the city council that we do something at least with the pay table. And continue eventually talk about having a performance review plan and merit plan, whatever you call it. But what I wanted to do tonight is present what I think we should do in terms of like the pay table or pay scale structure. So we originally established the pay structure back in 2023 when for the city positions that we had in place at the time. There's been additional positions since then that we've added. The current pay scale structure established included a minimum pay range. A minimum to maximum pay range was set at 25%, meaning that the minimum pay was this, maximum pay was 25% more than the minimum pay. We had 6 steps that we established, and each step you would get an automatic raise, whatever percent that next step would go to. So it was typically 4.5 to 5% for each step for each position. And And that would be done at the anniversary date. We also were required to, the city council was asked at the beginning of each year or at the end of each year, I think it was the end of last year, whether we wanted to do a COLA, which means that all the minimums and the maximum, the steps would all go increase at the rate of the cost of living adjustment, which is typically the rate of inflation. So that's how the current pay structure was established based on my understanding. And on the second page, the third page of my deck here, this is the pay scale structure according to my understanding based on what we've reviewed in the past. I'm not going to go through all those things, but it's for all the positions that we've approved for the city. So my proposed compensation pay scale structure would be this. We would remove the steps within each job and establish what's called an open range in Woodbury. I think Abe, you reached out to them and they have an open range where there's no steps involved, but they do have a minimum and they do have a maximum. We would not change, my proposal doesn't change the minimum pay ranges. But my proposal does increase the maximum, the difference between the minimum and the maximum. I think 25% is kind of small. And I would propose to increase it to 40% to have bigger ranges. It gives us more flexibility to bring on new employees. I'd make the pay structure effective tonight if we approve anything, or as soon as if we ask Eric to go back and look at this proposal a little bit more. But effective as soon as possible for any position not currently filled, because I kind of like to have this settled before we hire all these new replacements for the 3 open positions we have right now. And then for Matt, his would become effective January 1st, 2025, which means he would get his step increase. I think his anniversary date is December. So we promised him whatever that step was, we would let him have that, but then next year he would then start falling under this. I'm not proposing to change any current employee's compensation rate. The new structure then I show here, same positions, a minimum, a maximum, and a midpoint. The range between the minimum and the maximum is 40%. Why do I think that we should make this change? I do believe that the market rate should be fair to not only city employees, but also fair to its taxpayers. And I think using a 6-step pay structure plus COLA is not fair to the taxpayers. An open range gives us flexibility and be able to budget and to make annual pay changes that are consistent with job market changes, inflationary factors, the city's financial position. Increasing the maximum pay range from 25% to 40% of minimum reduces the odds that an employee will hit the ceiling, and also provides the city additional flexibility to address any positions that are hard to fill. I think it's the right time to make this change. Like I said, we're preparing the 2025 fiscal budget, and we need to know what we want to budget for the wage changes beginning next year. And then the city's, like I said, the city's in process of hiring a permanent city administrator, finance director, city clerk. So it's better to make this change now before we fill those positions, and we can tell people what their wages would be and what their scale would be. I still think this is an interim step. I think still we want to think about implementing a performance-based compensation plan, but at least this takes care of the step situation that I'm concerned about. So that's my proposal. And I'm looking for a motion to approve this, or alternatively have Eric look at it. He's been around a lot longer than I have, and make sure that there's nothing that I'm thinking about and that I haven't thought about that would cause the city any problems. So.
Okay, council members, any questions, comments?
Yeah, the one question I have is 25 to 40. I understand what you're trying to do, but is it more of that you need to have different job descriptions? So you've got a planner 1, a planner 2, a planner 3, which has a different job description of number of years, experience, whatnot. So you could leave it at that 25%. If we're trying to avoid hitting the ceiling and being fair to the taxpayer, I don't think those are the same. So I'd say you leave it at the 25%. And then we look at our job descriptions and make sure that those are the correct scale.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I think that what we're proposing is where we wanted to be going, more towards that pay for performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that sets us up for a better structure to have that dialogue.
Do you have something to add?
Nope.
Oh, that yours.
No, I
Okay.
said, yeah.
So, all right, so, sorry, any other questions, comments, or?
No, I
I think-
think Abe makes a valid point on it. I just like
moving to this, definitely. Should have done this before. Okay, so then suggested action was to have, to direct Eric to take a look at this and make sure and come back on the fifth. We're not hiring anybody between now and the fifth, so I think that's a reasonable request to make sure that i's are dotted and t's are crossed over the next 3 weeks and have a proposal we can act on at that time.
And change the 40 to 30, keep the 25% then, Eric, and I can send you an updated table.
It was a long discussion there that I'll enjoy reading.
No, no.
Thanks for.
All right, so we're good, right? Good
Can
with
I
it?
make one more comment?
Yeah.
The League of Minnesota Cities, their research team has been extremely helpful in a lot of these types of things.
Mhm.
So it might behoove us to look at the positions that we have and be able to say, maybe put a couple extra job descriptions in there, planner two. Instead of just a finance tech, maybe a finance tech two, right? So we can
Yeah.
have a little bit more of that built out, so we don't have
Yep.
that ceiling.
Sure. Will that be part of though what he comes back with, or that sounds to me like it's gonna take a little longer than?
We can do that later. I mean.
Yeah.
The only thing that we might want to think about is when we're talking about finance director, city clerk. And my gosh, public works, maybe we have a couple different ones so we can look at, I don't know if that's something where we're looking for a 1 or a 2.
Yeah, I
type
don't
of
think
a-
with the city administrator, there's not gonna be a 1 or a 2. For the finance director, there's not gonna be a 1 or the
No,
2, and the
those are
city
top-
clerk
those
is
are
not gonna be a
high-level
1 or a 2
positions
either.
anyway.
So maybe it's just the.
Yeah.
Okay.
If
The public
some
works
of
would be-
the ones below, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and clerk is kind of a, you have your clerk and they have their statutorial duties.
Yeah.
And if we say we're gonna have the clerk do some other stuff in addition to, okay, well, that steps them up already anyways, so.
Yeah.
So I think there are some though.
But later, yes,
Later,
we should do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
During our other conversation about compensation.
Mhm. All right,
Thank you.
sounds good. All right, item 7.4, consider quote for drain tile on Oak Grove Avenue, Engineer Nelson.
I apologize, Mayor. It's always helpful for us note takers if there's a motion and
And a vote,
and
all
a
right.
vote.
I'll make a motion to the interim city administrator to take a look at the proposal that was just reviewed with the adjustment that we would continue to have the difference between min and max 25%. And come back at the next meeting with a resolution that, and I don't think we need a resolution, just with a recommendation that we're not doing anything. I don't know what the word is, stupid.
All right.
I'll second.
But
everything.
rephrase that.
Everything
motion,
you said,
okay?
right?
Yeah.
And make sure you get the stupid part, right? All right, I'll take Abe with a second on that one then. All right, motion is second to approve interim administrator Eric Johnson to review the information provided by Bill for the compensation table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Now, we'll get to Shane Nelson on the considering the quote for the drain tile on Oak Grove Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So I was asked to investigate or go make a site visit on Oak Grove Avenue. We basically had a situation where there was water running over the curb at a fairly constant rate. And it's been running in this state for the past couple of months. So I've investigated, I spoke with the homeowners. I believe the homeowners are in attendance tonight if the council has any questions for them. Hi, John. Oh, hi, John. And our first thought was, hey, this must be a leak in irrigation line or something like that. But since speaking with John and his wife, the irrigation system has been off for several weeks now, so they don't believe that to be the cause.
Has it been turned off so there's no water flowing through it, or has it just been turned off? There's no sprinklers inside? Okay.
Been unprecedented monitoring.
Yeah.
20 years we've lived there, I've never seen anything like this before.
Because Mr. Mayor, in 2014, I always hear you talk about how much rain we got that year. That didn't happen that year.
To the south side of our driveway, every once in a while, we get a heavy rain, we weak a little bit, a little swampy there. But it clears up in a couple days.
This time it's been about a week after the rain has stopped. 10 inches in, 3 to 4 days this spring. I think the natural flow of the water is to go under the road toward us, and it's our clay forced up to the road.
Okay,
Yeah, and-
Daniel, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I mean, we have some theories of what may be occurring, but in reality, we can't see under the ground. So we don't know exactly what's happening. Our best recommendation is to consider a drain tile or something to intercept the water. But with that being said, I want to make it clear that we haven't done any testing, we haven't spent any money digging holes. So we might get out there and start excavation and find something that we didn't expect. One example of finding something that we didn't expect is a drain tile. There's, a lot of the old agricultural fields were tiled. And a lot of times when you have a source like this, you can find that. If we find that, there might be some minor additional cost to tie that drain tile into the system. But I still think that the system that we're asking you to consider tonight would be adequate.
Okay.
There's also an option to try to do some more exploratory things. But at that point, are we spending $10,000 or $20,000 exploring it when we could just go in there and possibly correct the issue for that same amount of money? With that, the contractor provided us kind of 3 options for the city to consider. There was an option option 1, which is what I'm recommending, which would be a directional bore underneath the driveway and underneath, there's some concrete curbing, some landscaping by the residence mailbox. So that would not impact that. There was a lower cost of option 2 that would be damaging the concrete driveway and the landscaping, and then we'd be kind of on our own to try to find somebody to replace it, or that'd be up to the homeowner to try to replace it. And then option 3 was just stopping the drain tile short. So going from the catch basin, it's shown in the photos, to the driveway and kind of stopping short of that driveway. So I did include some pictures in this write-up, just so you can see kind of what's happening, and you can also see the road damage. But this is causing damage to our road, and because of that, I would recommend that the city take some kind of action on it. But with that, I'll stand for questions.
Council, any questions, comments?
Is the developer on the hook for any of this stuff? Or is it too?
Yeah, Councilmember Markert, so no, we generally have a 2-year warranty period on our developments. This development was 04, 05, 06, somewhere in there. So there would be no developer responsibility.
And then can you explain the cheapest option again? What would we be doing? And why wouldn't we do that? What would be the disadvantage of just spending $8,800?
Yeah, the disadvantage of the cheaper option is it doesn't solve the entire problem. The homeowner stated that even on some of the drier years, they had weeping on the south side of the driveway. And that's, I observed that too. It was really wet on the south side of the driveway by the mailbox. And option 3 would stop short of the driveway.
That's what you mean? Okay, all right. And so the expensive piece is going underneath his driveway.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
So I have a question, looking at the photo, is the elevation higher to the right? On the right side of this photo?
To the right side of the photo, or kind of the top of the page, is where the catch basin is located, and that's the lower elevation.
To the right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it actually, it's hard to tell from the photo, but it almost looks like it slopes. The road is a higher elevation from the.
Oh, sure.
I'm just looking at photos, it's hard to tell. Where is this suspected to be originating on the opposite side of the road, on the right side, or on the left? And
Normally, when we have water seeping out of a hill or something, it's because there's in the soil horizon, there is a more permeable layer, so like a sandier layer. And that area just becomes, or that horizon becomes saturated. A lot of times you see, we call it hills. Every time I drive by County Road 8, there's a spot where the water hoops across a trail, and I kind of keep an eye on that. And usually that's And it's just a sandier layer in the soil horizon.
So we could have actually more, water underneath, more of the road than just the edge, which is probably gonna damage more.
Which is why it's probably, you see some of
Yeah,
the dark
and I'm seeing
areas.
it here, and I'm seeing there's some.
Yeah, right
there's some
now,
soft
the
spots.
hydrostatic pressure is actually, the water is bubbling out of the road. And so that's causing the damage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say if you're pretty comfortable with the, option one, that probably looks like probably the better thing. And then, but we should probably figure how much for contingency for, if you find something else, is that, obviously that doesn't fix the road in that estimate? Or does it?
No, this is, the estimate is only for trying to correct the drainage.
So what's our overall that we're looking at? Because obviously we get some damage to the road too.
Right,
What's that gonna cost us to fix?
and we don't have a quote for that at this point.
Okay. So we're probably gonna come back and revisit it.
Yeah, and my recommendation would be, you know, it's gonna take some time. There's a lot of water, the soil is saturated. And even after we install the drain tile, it's gonna take some time for the soil to dry out. And so my recommendation would be to install the drain tile, let it work for a while.
Yeah.
Whether that's 3 months or over the winter.
Mhm.
And then come back and patch the road after the water problem has been addressed.
Leroy, Jim.
Yeah, went out with Shane to look at that, and if we don't do something. This road could end up like Harvest Hills, and raise up 6 inches this winter when it freezes underneath, so. We need to do something here to prevent that.
Yeah. So just, I'm just looking at GIS behind you there, Shane. Where is the drain tile proposed to, just along the front, and where does it outlet into?
And Shane, there is about probably 30 feet of drain tile out of that catch basin that was put in with the project.
Right. Yeah, so the catch basin is right here, you kind of see it on the aerial photo. And then the drain tile will come up here. And the water is all leaking over the curb. You can actually see it in this photo. This whole curb line is wet.
Yeah,
And so the less expensive option would stop short of the driveway, would not pick up this area here, and this area here is extremely saturated. And so the option one, which we're recommending, would install a drain tile, make a connection to this catch basin. All the way here, directional bore under the driveway and this landscape area, and then more
Okay.
drain tile on the side of the driveway.
all right,
And
and have it all drain towards that catch basin.
It would all drain towards the catch basin.
And
Perfect.
it's really, really weird if you go out there because where the red line is. Gentleman's yard slopes back.
Yeah, a lot of
So-
the topography actually slopes this way.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
So it's,
Yeah.
So it's just,
it is
yeah,
a little bit odd.
and it's
Right.
only bubbling up on one side of the road.
yeah,
You'd think the pond would maybe be
pond would be
forcing water
forcing
over
water.
something, but it's not.
so, okay. Water does interesting stuff.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, council members, any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion.
I think we should probably go with option one, because even. You're looking at maybe some savings and some differences, but then we're gonna be getting into, you know, how much does it cost to repave. To saw cut and repave the driveway. Some of the rest of that. You know, so I think it kind of washes, and this seems like a better. Smoother way to go. We're just gonna wind up getting incremental costs added into it anyway.
Well, one thing with saw cutting the driveway, Jay, past experience. You can't ever match up the concrete.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
And then somebody's not happy. So
Mm-hmm,
anyhow,
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, a bore, we can
Yeah.
easily.
yeah,
It's
and it sets a
very
portion of the.
unobtrusive and easy, and, you know, we're kind of finished when we're done.
Yep. So are you making a motion now?
I am gonna suggest that I'm gonna make a motion that we go with option one.
Okay,
I'll second it.
thank you, Leroy. So I've got a motion, and a second to approve option number one, which is a $19,000 with the boring under the driveway. Any other comments or questions, or? Otherwise, I'll call for the vote. So motion is second. All in favor of the option one, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on, 7.5, authorize staff to investigate increased flow rates in the CSTS system. Engineer Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can do my best to introduce this and answer questions, although I may not have all the information. So basically, we had a meeting with NSU, our CSCS system operator, on July 11th. And really the purpose of the meeting was to evaluate flow data as it relates to the proposed development that's connecting to the territory CSCS 2 and 3 system. And I guess the summary or the long and short is we experienced very substantially increased flows in the system in the month of May and the month of June this year. So about double, or in some cases over double, what flows had been previously based on flow monitoring data. So now that suggests that we probably have I&I, we're making the assumption that this correlates again to the record rainfalls that we've had so far this summer. And one method, or in speaking with the operator, one method that they have to try to narrow this down is to look at pump runtime from each individual home. And by looking at pump runtime, we're hoping that we can find a few addresses or a few locations where, hey, this pump was running 10 times more than it should have, or 10 times more than the other homes in the neighborhood, or maybe this pump did shut off. And there's going to be a lot of possible, there's probably several possible reasons for the pump to run. One might be a cover is knocked off, and maybe the septic system's in a bad spot. It's just surface infiltration. Another might be there's illegal sump pump connections. When these houses were originally constructed, they plumbed in the sump pump to the sewer line, even though our ordinance prohibits it. And it's possible that we just didn't know about them because we never had this much water, and a lot of sump pumps have not ran as much as they have this spring. Now, it could be a cracked tank. It could be also other areas in the system where there's a crack or a break. That's not as likely because it's a pressurized system, but it is a possibility. So again, the operator stated that actually some of the homes, maybe half or a little bit over half, have phone lines that are connected to them. They can actually receive some data via phone lines. But then there's also, if the phone line is not connected, they have an option to go to the control panel, actually connect the control panel and download data. Now that data is only stored for a certain amount of time before it gets overwritten. Therefore, I do think time is of the essence. Our operator didn't know exactly how long these control panels stored it for, but he's thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 60 days. And if we kind of lose our chance to
Record the data.
yeah, to get the data, we might not know what homes were contributing until we have another record rainfall, or a couple of months of record rainfalls. So one other interesting piece of information is, we were looking specifically at CSTS 2 and 3 data, but we also asked, hey, are you recognizing increased flows in other areas? And yes, we are. Territory 1, I recall, was also increasing, showing increased data, and then I think 7 had flows that nearly doubled. But there was another system that nothing's changed. So we have at least one system that's probably no illegal connections, no I&I. But some of the other systems, we may have some concerns or some investigation to try to determine the source. So the operator stated that this work is outside of their normal operation and maintenance contract, so they require a directive in order to.
That seems fishy to me, that they maintain our systems, yet when they're when they're trying to figure out they're maintaining the system and we have to pay extra because I don't understand why that wouldn't be part of their scope of services. And have we looked at the contract to make sure that they're not just telling us that they can charge us for this? Because to me, all they're doing is gathering data, right? They're just gathering data, right? And they may have to go out there because the phone lines aren't connected, but they're still can't, to me, that'd be part of their job.
Well, yeah, and gathering data is probably the first step.
Right. And that's what all you're proposing tonight is to gather data.
Right, and yeah, and I have not looked at their contract. I do not supervise the operator. I merely put this on the agenda
Okay.
just because I wanted to try to bring it to the council's attention as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Um,
I did look at the contract and now I can't find it. I don't know if this. Shoot. It said something about monitoring
If it's,
the pump and the monitoring stuff. I forget what it is. Oh, perform calibration of pumps for evaluation of flow totals. That's part of their maintenance cost scope. So,
but they still charge us hourly rates for that anyways.
so then why did they say that this is outside the scope and they're gonna have to charge us more?
I don't know
Or
if
is that
they
just-
they just want authorization to do it, right? So it's
Sure.
outside of the normal maintenance and operation. So they'd want us to authorize doing this work. It still would fall under the same rates that they would
So we
normally
don't,
charge us.
we don't get charged a monthly charge. We get charged by the hour for everything they do.
I know that there's a lot of on-site hourly, they have different rates for the different stuff they do, yes.
Okay.
And
I-
Mr. Mayor, Council Member Marker, one thing that Tyler did state is that they do annual inspections of all the systems anyways, on-site inspections. And so I informed them that I thought CSTS 2 and 3 would be a priority, so we want to look at both that system first. And, you know, they could maybe tie this into their normal annual inspections, but it may be, you know, instead of, I don't know how many they get through in a day, but maybe they don't, you know, aren't able to do quite as many each day because they're doing a couple extra steps.
How many homes are we talking about? Systems 2 and 3?
There are 47 lots, 45 homes are built. 45 connections.
So for systems 2 is 45 and for system 3, it's 45. So there's
2 and
80
3
homes.
are combined.
They
So
run
45
together.
homes. Isn't it cheaper just to go to each person's home, go in and look to make sure their sump pump isn't discharging water into the septic system? And say, and then we probably know.
Yeah, the tricky part with that is one, how do you obtain permission to enter?
You
the-
ask, well,
the home.
don't we have we can't do that? We can't go and purchase homes and,
Probably not unless we have evidence of
okay,
something there, right?
Yeah, generally, if obtaining access in the home is a coordination nightmare, generally.
Okay.
You know, in the few examples where I've had a reason to go into somebody's house, generally they're agreeable, but it takes 4 or 5 phone calls, a couple, you know, several inquiries before you can get a hold of somebody, find a time and date that works.
So now if you're trying to coordinate for 45 homes,
okay.
then you'd make multiple trips.
And this can be done electronically or can it, if the phone line's connected, it can be.
It sounds like half of them,
Oh,
it sounds like
Yeah.
there's connections that can.
I have a question.
Yes,
just
go ahead,
to sort of this. Now, so the reason that we've got to. Not all of these homes are hooked up to a phone line. Is that-
That's my
Correct.
understanding.
It sounds like.
Okay, and the question would be, why not? Was that something that they were supposed to do? And didn't do? Or was it an option, or what exactly, because obviously monitoring, doing the monitoring of this. To a phone that's to a system that's connected. Costs very little. Whereas then if we've got to go field verify and go down and actually look at everything because they're not hooked up to it. You know, then that's an extra cost. Shouldn't that cost then go to the homeowner? Shouldn't they bear that if they took an option to not hook up the system? Or, you know, it's just kind of you know, should everybody else that actually paid to hook up to the thing and make theirs automatic wind up bearing the cost for somebody that opted out of it. And the question is, why did they opt out of it, or were they, did they just not hook it up and we didn't enforce it? Should this be mandatory that we do this?
A lot of the residents just got rid of their landline, just like a lot of us have done.
Is it possible to get
And
a
we never made it
cellular
mandatory.
hookup or something, or is that something that we need to do before we ask to do this, or should we be asking those that don't have it to bear the cost of the actual on-site investigation?
And then if the house got sold in the meantime, the
Right.
phone went away, how do you
Well,
ask these people to
right,
back up?
but I mean, that's just something
I
that.
think that's a separate conversation. We need to figure out what's
Well, we're
connected,
about
what
to
isn't
authorize,
connected.
we're probably about to authorize spending money on it. If we're doing that, we should
Mhm.
probably be,
And I think that could be some of the data we could collect and figure out at the end of this project is to figure out, okay, we had to go on site for X number of homes.
Okay.
Now, then what's the policy? What is the desire of the council for policy going forward?
Okay.
We're gonna,
Well,
I don't know that we have a policy today that says that they have to be connected.
I think that if we're gonna do this, we should at least collect the data of, a work ticket to
Right.
show which ones that we actually spent the extra money on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what Shane's asking
Right.
for, is to collect this data before we lose it.
Well, I'm not saying that data, I'm also saying the data of, did we,
Yeah, I
This
think there's some other
house
things.
A, we spent more money because we had to go knock on the door and we had to go we had to go in and do that, make a site visit. So this one, I mean, there should be just more detail, we should make sure we require more detail from our operator on his billing.
Do we have the flow rates and what they saw? Or are we just taking their word for it that system 2 and 3 are higher than normal? I mean, we've seen the reports?
We have some reports, yes.
And Shane, we're just talking about territories, right? At this point,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
memo specifically calls out territories.
right, and the council can, obviously provide whatever direction that you see fit, but
Mhm.
my recommendation is that we have, I at any of our systems that we try to investigate it and try to eliminate it.
Mhm.
It's just not efficient to treat groundwater.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, I think territory, we have a more pressing need to try to
Mhm.
determine what's the cause. But really, after we finish with CSCS 2 and 3, my recommendation would be that we move on to the other systems. And if we've experienced increased flow data in
Mhm.
the other systems, also investigate those. So,
Sure.
2014, did we have this issue? Do you remember?
No,
No,
I was here in 2014 and I don't remember.
so, and again, things can change, right? I mean, people can connect stuff in their house different than what it was 10 years ago, right? People move. People landscape stuff different.
get sick of the wet spot outside your house and the
Right.
same pump kicks in and hook it up to the floor drain in the basement.
Yeah,
Do we have an ordinance for
we do have a CSTS ordinance.
Right.
And we were in the process of revising that.
So then we should also probably look at making sure we have either an internet or telephone connection to this thing and require that every.
Yeah, I think we need to understand some of the benefit to that, right? I mean, what kind of data is available? Is it just pump on and off time and how valuable is that, right?
Well,
So again, I think what I would ask from the operators to recommendation on that with
Right.
some of that cost benefit, right? So if we're gonna ask somebody to spend money on whether it be a cellular modem or a permanent phone connection,
Either one, right?
what's the benefit to that, right? So we'd have to understand that before I think we add that to our ordinance, but I think it's worth the while the
I think we
discussion.
better ask- we better ask the
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
But I think in the meantime, before we lose this data, I think it would be appropriate to have the operator get the data.
Absolutely.
2 questions. You made a comment about not knowing what the data is that we're gonna get. Is that true? Do we not know what we're really gonna receive?
I don't know.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what is available. I think on off time, it sounds like it's available, which is what we're looking for
okay.
first, right? Because that'll help us decide which ones are
pumping more than others.
Okay.
I think that,
Yeah.
that to me, that's gonna help us determine that flow rate piece.
They don't,
Right, I don't know what else is available, right? So what I'm saying, if we're gonna look at requiring a permanent electronic connection, I think we need to have some cost benefit analysis to that before we say you gotta spend X amount more dollars to permanently connect that electronically. That was my comment, why I said that,
Gotcha.
you know, is it just on off data and is that worthwhile?
Okay.
Having that connection.
I think they are, if they lose the landline, they are required to be hooked up for their alarm. So that goes back to those guys. When
I don't know, I don't know that that one is, I think the whole systems where the collection happens is, I think the alarm on each site happens at their house. I mean, something to look at.
Yeah.
We definitely need to look to figure out, is that in our ordinance today or not, and we would require that to be in our ordinance if it's not.
Other question I have, since I'm not an engineer. So it's costs more to treat the groundwater, it's the pumps are going to be running too frequently, it's gonna be too, what's the root that we're trying to solve?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, so a couple of things, we have, permit limits on how much flow each system can treat. And, if, basically, we can't exceed those limits. That's a permit issued through the MPCA. And if we begin exceeding those limits, you know, we'll be subject to fines or penalties. And so that's the first thing. And the second thing is, the treatment. So, treating a bunch of water, you're just gonna throw everything off. You know, the wastewater actually treats better when there's bugs in it, and you know, there's different processes that happen, and when you introduce a bunch of clear water, it's gonna throw the system off.
Okay.
Temporarily throw the system
Yeah,
out.
and it's using up capacity that's not needed to be used.
Right.
Yeah.
time toilets and stuff, so.
Well, I get concerned with, and Shane, maybe it's just the way you wrote this, but it says NSU states that they should be able to obtain pump work. They either can or can't. Why would they not know for sure whether they can do that? They should be possible to obtain pump run times. Well, if they can't, then what are we paying them for? Then the second thing is they also say, we are hoping we can pinpoint the homes. I don't want to pay someone money that they're gonna hope that they can pinpoint the homes. You either can or you can't with the data that they're gonna collect. So how would you address that?
Yeah, so, Councilmember Margaret, I guess at this point, I don't know what they're gonna find. I mean, I have a theory, and they have a theory on what has contributed to this increased flow. It could be something completely different. You know, there is a chance that the source isn't coming from the homes. There's a chance that, we have a cracked tank at our treatment system. And there's
For two
elevated.
systems. So that.
Well,
one's gonna-
CS 2 and 3 is one system.
Oh,
It's just the way it was named long ago and that name stuck.
Right.
And so it's confusing, but it is one system.
Maybe it's some toilet stuff leaking, you know, running.
Yeah.
It's.
Where's,
Could be anything.
question again, where's the flow actually located at, or where are they marking more flow? Is that at the filters, or is that,
Yeah, at the treatment site.
okay, I mean, is it possible that we've got infiltration into our seepage into one of the filters?
That is possible. It's possible, it's not as likely. And that's, you know, part of the. You know, it's just like it's similar to the water seeping over the curb. We don't know exactly where it's coming from. We don't know exactly what it's sourced. We can't see under the ground, so you just. You know, there's some testing that you could do, which is really expensive. And so we're using, I guess, the best methods available to try to narrow down what the source is.
Can we get a quote from NSU that all we're paying for is that they obtain pump run times? And that they pinpoint the homes that have contributed to the increase in flow and not do anything else. Don't fix anything, just tell us. I would assume that's a lot
Well,
cheaper.
I think you could, if that's what you wanna direct them to do, to start, I mean, I think that's the important thing, but I don't think we, given the potential limitation of the length of time that may clear the memory. I think time is of the essence to approve them to go out and obtain the data
Yeah.
before it goes away.
But we don't know how much they're
So-
gonna charge us, and like the lady said tonight, public forum, don't we wanna know how much they're gonna charge us to do this? So. I get concerned, we don't have any data in front of us, we're just relying on them to say, hey, we gotta go out and do this work, and we don't know how much it's gonna cost, we don't know how many hours it is, can't we get some type of like. Estimate? That'd be,
We could, by the time we get to approve it, it'll be 3 weeks from now.
okay, can we authorize Shane to do something as long as it's within a certain dollar amount? I mean, how do we approve something that we don't know how much it's gonna cost, that we don't have an estimate? Is it gonna be 25 grand? I don't know. Do we have any history of doing this where we can look up how much it cost us last time to go out to homes and, or figure this stuff out?
We've never done it before.
Well, that's even more concerning than not to know how much it's gonna cost.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think that you could have a trip charge and you've got X number of minutes, hours per house. We could back into that number and give Shane
Right.
something.
Right.
Do we have a hourly charge that they have?
Yeah, well, we have their hourly rates.
150.
So 150 and half of them you have phone lines for,
Maybe,
so we're at 25
maybe.
roughly. Now the
Yeah,
downside
there's
is,
still time, there's still gonna be time to pull the ones from the ones that don't have, or that are connected. It saves the trip charge,
But again, aren't
but
we?
it's still
aren't we
gonna be the
also
same amount of time.
Hooked up to the mall.
It's gonna be the same amount of time. You still have to, the difference between logging into a system compared to if you're on site isn't much different. The trip charge is a difference.
Mr. Mayor, aren't we also considering that maybe, I think for Engineer Nelson's suggestion, we would be combining some of this with the annual inspection? Is that possible?
If they can do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought they inspect twice a year. Thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's correct, and that was one of Tyler's ideas to. So he
Mitigate
wasn't
costs.
making, yeah,
Yeah,
that they could do their annual
Mhm.
inspections simultaneous with their on-site. But yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of incremental additional time to hook up to the, and analyze the data. I don't think we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars here, I think. And I've never reviewed their invoices, I've never, again, I don't manage them.
Well, we
so I
can
don't-
do it not to exceed.
Yeah, not to exceed. Does SD Consulting get paid anything too, or is it just NSU? Because I saw SD Consulting name in the write-up.
Sure, and so the reason for meeting with SD Consulting was because we were analyzing a request to connect additional homes to the system.
Mhm.
NSU had sent out this data or had provided this data to SD Consulting. And they're looking at it and saying, hold on, a couple years ago, back in 2021, I think it was. We looked at flow data monitoring for a pretty long time period, and
Mhm.
based on that flow data, we thought,
We
you
can
know,
hire and all the homes.
there was,
Yeah.
there was additional capacity to connect new homes. Based on this data for the past 2 months, our recommendation has changed. We don't think any new homes can connect with this increased flow data. And so
Mhm.
that was really, the purpose of the meeting was to evaluate the development request. But again, because of what I've heard in the meeting, I thought it'd be prudent to bring this to the council's attention right away, just so we don't lose potential data.
Mhm.
Well, if you're thinking it's like 60 days of data, then that's really, you already lost half of May.
Yeah.
So we've got the rain,
Would we have
had
done,
increased rain flows for basically the latter half of May and
All June,
and into July.
into July.
So, I mean, this is, if we're looking for that, and we
Time
want to
is
try to
of the
figure
essence.
this out, we really need to do this now.
Yeah.
If you have a 60-day data window.
Mm-hmm.
What are their rates? I mean, if we were to just take that, I'm thinking of what.
Hang on.
So I'm just thinking my day job, right? Classic troubleshooting. We're trying to find any variable and to get and identify it and say if that's it or not, right? What's our next step when we find out it looks decent? Or what's the next step when my house is 6 times what J house is, because I have a lot more people in my house, but do we have that data to even do that? So wondering if this data that we're getting is gonna get us to what we're hoping. Not saying it's wrong, because I find it a great way to start troubleshooting, but is there anything else that we want to look at in addition? When they're out there, do we have them take a look at?
Lids, again, so fitting back to the annual inspection, right? Right, what do the lids look like on each house's system, right? As the landscape changes, their landscape pointed down into that area now with a lid that's gone.
So that will be
You know,
done with the inspection.
If that's an
Okay.
annual inspection piece, yes.
Do we have the household data to even see if that's valid? Did anything change? I mean, do we know when these have changed? When this began?
I think it sounds like just the last couple months.
May and June.
Yeah.
And,
So
and I
it's-
think
that-
what we're
that sounds
looking
like a
for,
rainfall.
it will be challenging if we look at, and we look at 45. Information for 45 households, and they all show that they went up,
Mhm.
100%.
Fortunately.
I don't anticipate that's what we're gonna find. I guess what we're anticipating is we might find 3 houses or a handful of houses
Mhm.
that it appears that the pump never shut off. That it was running, 18 hours a day or 16 hours a
Right.
day,
And that might indicate.
and that might indicate,
A sump
leak
pump.
Or some pump.
right?
Mhm.
And then from there, yeah, how
Contact
do
the
we figure
homeowner.
out if it's a cracked tank or a sump pump? One thing that you could do, or that the operator could do, there's a dye that you can put in, go on the sump pump, open the basket lid, drop some dye in there. And if that dye shows up in the septic tank, well, we know that there's a connection.
Mhm.
That's one relatively simple way. There's a few other ways you can scope it, you can do things, but yeah, what's that next step? We don't have those answers yet.
Right.
And we don't have a baseline for homes either. So
We
Yeah.
have 20 years of monitoring history for
Mhm.
the system as a whole.
a system as a whole, but not as a.
Right, and I actually
Right.
shouldn't even say that because CSTS 2 and 3 has only been online for
3 or
2
4 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And these systems were built, I believe, 4-bedroom. Average when they were built. They were built. Much
Mhm.
bigger than they really needed to be.
right.
So,
Do you think this would have been brought up if we weren't looking to add homes to those systems? Like, would they have?
Well, if we're starting to exceed flows,
If they're monitoring it, the whole
we
thing.
bump it up against the
It should
permit
be
level.
noticed.
But I didn't hear that we were bumping up. That was one of the reasons why you want to fix it, but have we bumped up we're over the limit?
Yeah, so we're over the limit, which can be reliably treated on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, it's based on, for the treatment side of things,
we're switching.
it's based on our Advantix AX100 pods. My understanding is there's 5 pods out there that can reliably treat 12,500 gallons per day on average. We're not worried about having one higher day or 2 higher days, but when we have a week that exceeds that amount, or 2 weeks or prolonged periods that exceeds that amount, that is concerning. And that's what we observed in May and June.
Okay, so we did go over the limits. Okay.
Correct.
I think we should investigate this. I think the question is, how much should we authorize at this point? So I think that's our discussion is, do we give a not to exceed amount or something that we can throw out there? And then make sure that we understand what we're gonna get for the money. And have some sort of a direction to that, or. I mean,
So
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll just throw an idea, and again, I don't have a really a dog in this fight, but, I mean, maybe the directive is to begin investigating and to advise the city administrator if they think the hours are gonna exceed 40 hours or some threshold. Basically, so we kind of know what we're getting into ahead of time. Again, I don't think this is a 1,000-hour task. It's, I think it could be 40, you know,
I think it's a reasonable way to go and just say not to exceed and instead of hours, because I think their billing hours 150, but.
it's 130. The high,
Okay.
the operation.
So then if you did,
$130.
if you did $7,000. That gets you 40 some hours.
If I could suggest that maybe we authorize the city administrator to spend a certain amount. That he can spend up to a certain amount or authorize that, and isn't that already within his limits anyway?
So.
I mean.
I think if we, Jay, if we just do the specific project, let's just authorize $7,000 and start beginning the initial investigation. Let's collect the data and see where it lands
Yeah,
and get further information from there.
right.
I think if we work on that path, that'll get us the information. I think, I hate to risk losing that information. Because if we wanna figure out, is there a particular couple houses that are contributors to this? We need to identify it before it's a problem.
And before the data that would show it. there's-
100%. 100%,
So
so,
I'll make a motion that we authorize spending up to $7,000 to
investigate
this.
Territorial.
territories. Yep. Okay, so that's a motion.
second.
So motion by Seiderbach, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to staff and council member reports, section 9.1. County Road 44 sanitary sewer and water main crossing preliminary plans. Engineer Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take just a brief moment to provide kind of a status update of this project. So the city council had previously authorized us to prepare a set of preliminary drawings for the sewer and water crossing. These would be the sewer and water crossings that are necessary for our project scheduled in 2028. So we're basically trying to coordinate early.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Shane.
So we're trying to coordinate early
Thank you.
with the city of Savage and the Met Council, just because there's kind of so many agencies involved. So these plans have been provided to the city of Savage for kind of initial review and feedback, and they had a couple of very minor comments. And they were also provided to the Met Council engineering staff. And at the time of writing this case, I had not heard back from them. But writing the case caused me to kind of ping them for information. And I heard back from one of the Met Council engineers. They might have some suggestions or requests to make some changes to the preliminary plans. But they're not quite sure yet. It's a big organization and they have to meet with their operations staff to talk about it. So really, there is no action that's required from the city council at this point. Again, these would just be the connections under the road, and we'd want to do this kind of in advance of the reconstruction project for Country Court, just so we're all set up and we're ready to make these connections. So with that, I guess I'll stand for questions if there are any, but.
Okay, council members, any questions? Okay,
I don't know, where does our legal responsibility for that start? I mean, don't we, isn't the middle of the road, Credit River? We'd be bringing it all the way underneath. Or Does the Met Council have any responsibility to that? Would they do any of that work? You know, just looking at who's gonna pay for all this.
Sure. Shane, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so based on our initial discussions, the Met Council would say that they would, or have stated that they would. Offer a cost reimbursement for the metering station itself. So the metering station, that would become a Met Council facility. And they have indicated that from the metering station on, that would be kind of their monitoring point or their connection point. And that would be a Credit River responsibility.
Can you put that on the north side?
The metering station is on the north side.
Yes.
Yep.
Or you should put it on the south.
Okay,
Is this like once we do that, the city is saying, we're gonna do this. I mean, that's kind of like we're going to build a
Right.
sewer system. It's like we can't go back, right? So we've made the decision, we're gonna do that, even though,
I think we should see if we can find some funding for it.
Bill,
We made this decision in 2008.
I know you
The
did. I know,
decision was made in 1960 something when
I
they
know
built
you
these
did.
neighborhoods. You know,
Yeah.
you get 4 neighborhoods that cannot sustain septic forever.
and I haven't asked this county since last September, but we only had 62 septic systems in the whole city of Credit River that didn't pass their test or whatever they call it. And none of them were catastrophes. I forget what they called it, but. So we're gonna spend all of this money and nobody's asking for it. And I just. So comfortable pulling the trigger because there's no going back once we decide to do that. And the 800,000 is just an estimate right now, right? I mean, there's,
Yeah, and at this point, we don't update our estimates every time we touch a project. The 800,000 was a CIP estimate that was included in our CIP a couple years ago. So that's, it's trying to factor in what's inflation gonna do from between now and
okay,
2027.
Okay.
But at such point, like if we get to a point where, we develop final plans or something that's maybe more than conceptual, I guess. At that point, we could prepare cost estimates based on the scope of work. And again, try to project out what we think the inflation is gonna be.
Okay, anything else? We'll move on to 9.2, Casey's Edition roads. Engineer Nelson.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, just a quick update on this. So I did go out to the Casey Edition. I marked several areas for like pothole patching. And then I also marked an area on the Fleming Circle, Fleming Lane and John Deere Drive, kind of that loop, and it's shown on the map of the case for patching. We received one of the quotes back prior to me writing this case, not the second one, so I'm not asking for any action at this time. But based on that first quote, the estimated cost is $87,000. So I guess one thing that I would ask the council, should I proceed down this path? That will, if we spend this money, it will exceed our patching budget that we had for this year. But I also think there's probably a pretty low likelihood that we're gonna be able to construct a microsurfacing on 170th Street because of our culvert replacement project. So, are we okay, or are we comfortable moving forward with doing this much patching? Would you like me to reduce the scope and maybe not?
Did you get any smaller scopes or thoughts on that? Estimates or not, or this was just straightforward? I think we should try to stick to our budget. If that means we might have to do some more next year.
Yeah, if we stick to our budget, I think we're gonna have several areas in the Casey Edition that don't get patched this year. And if that's acceptable to the city, it's.
Well, we've been doing that. Hold that country court. For now, this is the second year we've done it. I think we should try to stick to that, probably just a little bit more for next year.
How much are we talking about that would put us over the budget? Do you know?
Well, let's say this is roughly 90,000 and what the patching that we did in Country Court was right around 60,000.
Yeah.
So 150 total.
150 total, but what was our budget?
I believe our budget's 120,000.
So it'd be 30 grand over budget
And I'm sure we'll save 30 grand
on the other.
on the
project.
microsurfacing.
Yeah.
So
we don't
are you
do it.
comfortable, right, we're just taking it
As
from
long
a
as,
different bucket?
yeah, if we're just,
We're just
Just
moving it.
moving it from the other maintenance piece,
then that would.
not
that would
delaying
fall
the other
into-
project
other one would
because
Fall into next year because it's gonna fall into it anyway. Is that what you're saying?
the microsurfacing, the
Yeah.
microsurfacing will push anyways, because we won't get the culvert done in time to
Right.
do that one.
Yeah,
Which I'm sure that, can't remember what our CIP budget for that one was, or the maintenance budget for this microsurfacing, but it. Probably more than 30.
okay, so how much would we have to go back?
We were doing 170th, Whitewood and
Whitewood.
Birch, and then Casey and Killarney. We could still
Right.
move forward with Whitewood and Birch and Casey Killarney if the council wanted to. We've been kind of holding off to see what.
Thought it was like 80.
Yeah,
Microsurfacing. Do we have any more damage, that happens, it costs more if we put off the other ones?
I mean, these ones or those other, the microsurfacing.
Yeah.
Well, they're just due for their seal coat year.
Scheduled maintenance.
And those roads are relatively newer roads that
Yeah.
are reconstructed already, so they're in decent shape. They could probably make it till next year
Well,
before microsurfacing.
given what we did at Country Court the last 2 years or three,
Yeah,
there isn't that much left up there that needs to be done. I think that there was a little bit more. Maybe next year we look at that, but then Casey, if we did this, then we're really not gonna have anything more in Casey. After this, correct?
No, that's not
This pretty much fixes it.
That is not correct. This,
That's-
there's a map in
in the packet.
the packet and
We did a fair amount last year too. In there, in Casey.
We did a little bit this year. We've done a little bit last year. Yes, much like Country Court, we've done some every year. Yes.
So how much would we have to do next year? For Casey?
my rough guess is about the same as we're doing this year. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and then we probably wouldn't have Country Court very much there to spend at all. I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
driven through that, and actually. I think between the 2 years, we hit most of it.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
And we are trying to, learn from, in Country Court, we were kind of chasing the bad areas all the time. So we wait for the area to get really bad and then we go and we just patch an area that was, the worst area, kind of responding to complaints almost. But after 3 or 4 years, you end up doing the whole neighborhood anyways,
Right.
because the whole road is the same age.
Yep.
And it just,
okay, so, I'm thinking then if you're not gonna do the microsurfacing, that part of it. Then maybe we could just look at doing it here.
Mhm.
And then we wouldn't really probably have to budget anything more than we've done for the last 2 years.
The patching
Next
budget will be
year.
the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then that should all work out. Is that a good assumption?
I agree with that.
All right. Then I guess I would say let's do it because,
I think-
the roads there are,
They're rough.
Yeah.
The residents are having
Yep.
struggles with it, and I think we need to wrap that one up.
Yep.
I agree. When would this be done, do you think? Timing wise?
So at this point, we don't have a second quote yet, and it exceeds the threshold for requiring a second quote, so. I checked with the other contractor and, it was over the 4th of July holiday that we're asking for this, he said he just ran out of time, so. I guess
September?
if we're gonna stick with the same scope of work. I'll request a quote for our first meeting in
Fifth.
August 5th, and then hopefully the work can be completed.
In September,
shortly
okay,
thereafter,
okay.
For the winter.
I had a resident have concerns about there's a lot of dead ash trees in that neighborhood, and he was concerned that this work would be done and then people would be coming in and taking down trees and ruining the road that was just fixed. Is there a way we can send out a notice to the residents of that area saying if you have trees that you're expecting to get down this year, that you do them before the work gets started? Or don't we typically, do that, and we just ask
We
our
can-
residents to like take pictures of the damage that the trucks do if they do any damage.
It'd be really hard to coordinate because if their tree contractors are behind schedule, it's hard to.
Right,
We could. I
And we
mean,
could just send
everybody-
out a
we could tell
notice.
everybody, no, we have their park meeting coming up yet, so.
oh,
We
yeah,
can mention it then too.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
and
maybe we do that. I'm just trying to
Mhm.
address a concern.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty hard to coordinate though. I
Yeah.
mean, it's easier when it's like, say, we've talked about developments coming in and going, and we know when about those are gonna happen.
Yeah.
Some of these other things are kind of hard to,
We don't have any
Coordinate.
control on it.
right,
Well,
yeah.
along the line of trees, then also do we know, are there any ash trees in the park at Casey that need to be taken care of? Has anybody looked at that? We've got
That whole park is all scrub trees and stuff,
Are some of them ash?
probably.
Yeah, we should probably look, maybe at that meeting.
We did just a couple years ago, clean out a whole bunch of dead
Yeah,
trees
there's-
out there.
I mean, there's a whole bunch dying right now.
Mhm.
We have three in the cul-de-sac at Sewell Circle that are ours too, that we need to take down.
All right, so anyways, the direction on this is that we want to continue forward with it, get the second quote. Sorry, not to cut you off. I wanted to get back to the
I'll present those, quotes at the August 5th meeting.
perfect. All right.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds good. All right, any other staff or council member reports or anything anybody has?
Sorry. Was there a meeting at, Creekwood?
No, not Creekwood. We did, Scottsview.
Scottsview.
Yep.
Yeah, there was one there.
Concerns about the park equipment and the, Miss Leroy.
What?
Were the weeds killed in the,
The weeds
ball
are
diamond?
dead, the two dead trees are gone, it's seeded.
Was
What
it
else do you
raked?
want?
Was it raked? The ball diamond?
Yeah,
Not
Yeah,
yet.
let the weeds.
Let the
back.
weeds fill?
Jay's gonna go rake that, since
Okay.
he missed that part. We
That's what
volunteered.
happens when you don't show up to stuff, is you get voluntold for things.
No, that's gonna happen this weekend,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yep.
and I've been going around last week, trimming tree limbs and stuff from in front of signs, must have had what? 10 or 12 complaints on it, so that's all taken care of. And culvert got fixed on France Court today, that got added on, it was, the end of it was smashed from semis turning around. So that's fixed.
So Jay, at the park that, the three issues that I remember is the park equipment and the maintenance of it. Second thing was the gun club noise, both Orchard Lake and the gun club. And then the third thing was stop signs and yield signs and. I didn't-
That's,
That's Shane's fault.
Tidal Way, right? Tidal Way, Overland, remember, we've gone from stop signs to yield signs to stop.
No
signs
signs.
again.
Yes.
No signs for a while. There was a discussion about that again.
Yeah.
Now, the people that live there were not on the same page on that one either, so.
7 to 8, 4 to 5 is the best time to write tickets if you wanna write them.
I think the important thing is how can we have a stop sign that changes to a yield sign and back during those times?
Revolving?
A red flashing light and a yellow flashing. light.
Hey, speaking of that, do you know, and this is a good question, those stop signs that have the red flashing light, solar powered ones, are they proven to make a stop sign more effective at all? Is there any data on that, or do they just help alert you to there's a stop sign there?
Or better in fog and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're more visible,
Okay,
But people that like to fly right through it, that's not gonna probably stop it.
probably not gonna stop. They know the stop signs there anyways. Usually the point is to
Yeah.
alert somebody where
They're not familiar with the
they're
area.
not familiar with the area. Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple other just really quick
yep,
reports, so. We had a pre-construction meeting for the overlay project, on Wednesday of last week, that's starting this week. So just, heads up there, 170th Street, our culvert project, we did receive the final easement. So we're gonna go ahead and send that out for quotes, I'll be bringing that to the council, probably the second meeting in August. And then also I wanted to mention that the Markley Lake study was completed. sometime in April or May. And, you know, that study just kind of out there, it identified some alternatives or some measures to correct, the lake levels. It provided some ballpark costs with that. But if the council's interested, I could provide, the interim administrator with, a link to the report.
I'd like to see it.
At some point, we'll have to figure out.
I
do we
think the
want
link,
to-
I think they shut the link doesn't work anymore.
Uh,
I clicked on it, excuse me. I clicked on it here a couple weeks ago and it wouldn't let me in.
okay, I
Yeah.
might have a new link, either that or
Maybe.
my web browser might be remembering something from.
Yep.
I just clicked on it before the
Did you?
meeting and
Okay.
there's a story map. And you kind of
Oh.
go to the story map and then there's
That's
a
new.
view report, so. I can get that out to council, you know, at some point we'll have to decide, are we interested in?
Discussing the options.
Right, discussing the option, are we gonna budget for it in a capital improvement plan? That's not tonight, obviously, but I just wanted to,
Yeah, it'd be good to provide the report.
we will
Yep.
find a way to, maybe in the weekly update.
Yep.
Well, they're not gonna start the north side of territory at all, right? On the overlays. Until the
Dakota.
August 28th, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
that was
that's
the-
what he said on Wednesday.
Yeah.
That maybe they just won't start that at all.
Yeah,
Sure.
I guess things are,
wait and see.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Building committee, we're meeting again on
Oh, I was
Friday.
waiting for the adjournment.
Oh, sorry, I have one, I have one thing to.
Yeah.
Building committee, we're meeting on Friday and there are quite a few people that have signed up for their. And submitted their application for the advisory committee, so if you haven't and you want to, it's another week. So looking forward to that.
Okay.
Otherwise,
What are you gonna be discussing Friday at your building committee?
catching up where we left off, cause it's
Okay.
been,
There hasn't been any of the activity.
no.
Okay.
No, Right.
Introduce Eric and et cetera, so,
Yep.
and figure out. Where we're at.
Perfect. All right,
I'll make the motion adjourn.
perfect. Motion adjourned.
I'll second it.
Second, motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?